It was 20 years ago. Me, a strapping young skeleton lad, had just finished Dragon Quest I on Game Boy Color, and was excited to start Dragon Quest II. However, I was not prepared for the slow and steady beatdown that my patience would take, and eventually I would give up and leave the adventure unfinished. That failure has bothered me ever since, but replaying it today, yeah, it doesn't bother me quite so much anymore, because this game is rough. With key items hidden in obtuse locations, punishing difficulty spikes, and an aggravatingly high encounter rate, DQ2 is a game that I'm glad to have finally closed the book on, but only because I never have to open that book again. The story to the first game was nothing special. The evil dragon lord steals the orb of light and now darkness is gonna befall the land, yada yada, generic. But here it gets a little more interesting. See, the hero from the first game got with the princess after saving the day, and after doing the old they sired 3 children that would grow up to rule 3 kingdoms. Those kings would then have heirs of their own. The Prince of Middenhall, a blue-clad beatstick that looks like he should be in a World War II fighter plane, the Prince of Connacht, wielder of most of your healing and utility spells, and the Princess of Moonbrook, who I wish I could say was the party's heavy hitter with her magic spells, but we'll get to that. Once you gather these direct descendants of the original hero together, you must set off on a journey to defeat the evil Hargon and save the world. Again. Fun fact, the other 2 character names are determined based on what you name the Prince of Middenhall. My Prince of Connacht was named Drew in the GBC version, but on the Super Nintendo I wound up with Kane instead. Speaking of, yeah, I started with the GBC version that I grew up with for this video, but I was getting a little tired of the screen crunch and basic as hell battle view. I don't know why they downgraded to a plain white background when it was perfectly fine in the previous game. So with the help of a buddy on Discord, I upgraded to a bug-fixed and fan-translated ROM of the Super Nintendo remake. I do like this port, but it's kinda sloppy. NPCs wander around and can block where you need to go. Come on, you dingus, I'm trying to save the world here. Trying to buy or sell things takes longer than it should. The same for healing your party. There are so many button presses needed just to heal one person, and then the whole menu closes and you have to do it all again if you need to heal more. It doesn't even show you a party member's max HP so you can know how much they're missing. You have to check the status screen for that. Thankfully, Enix knew they messed up and made the menus much smoother in the Super Nintendo port of DQ3. It's a similar case with the world map, which wasn't in the NES version. You have to select it from your inventory every time you want to look at it, whereas in Super Nintendo DQ3, just pressing the R trigger brings it up. This port has some annoyances, but I've heard that trying to beat the original NES version is a nightmare. So yeah, not touching that one. There have been some little additions made since the relatively simple first game. You can sometimes get an item after battle, from something as simple as an herb to a god tier item that lets you save wherever you want. You can be poisoned. Herbs no longer stack, but you get 3 inventories to make up for it. And keys are no longer bought to unlock any door in the game. Now you must find a silver, gold, and jailer's key to unlock their corresponding doors. I vividly remember not being able to find the gold key as a kid, but the instruction book said that the princess can learn a spell that unlocks any door, so I tried grinding for that. It didn't work out. And oh, kind of a big change, combat is no longer a one-on-one slap fight, now it's group v group, with enemy numbers getting as high as 6 or 7 in a single fight. By default this is technically more complex than the first game, but really until late game your strategic decisions boil down to attacking with the 2 princes unless you need healing, and using the princess to cast Infernos on any bunched group. That's about it. In the late game you'll learn the Firebane and Explodet spells.
Cool!
But up until that point, I was begging for some attack spell variety. Another mechanic introduced here that has stayed with the series ever since is the unique way that enemies can be grouped together. Here, these 2 gremlins are treated as one entity. A normal attack on that group will randomly hit one of them, but there are spells that can target every enemy in a group, like Infernos and Sleep. And of course, Explodet just damages every enemy on the screen. Unfortunately, this system often leads to damage that could have been avoided if not for normal attacks being randomized on a group, especially in this game where group attack options are limited. Later games would take better advantage of this system by introducing weapons like whips and boomerangs that can attack groups or the entire enemy line. The world of DQ2 is so much bigger than in the first game. You start off relatively confined, much like the tutorial plateau from Breath of the Wild, but after you've gathered your party, you quickly get a boat that opens up so much to explore that it can be intoxicating at first. I was having a blast just checking out the world, until the first time I made landfall in a place where I clearly was not ready to be yet. The goal is to find 5 crests and offer them to the goddess to get a charm that will dispel Hargon's illusions. You also have to find the Eye of Malroth for a similar purpose. These names should sound familiar to you if you've played Dragon Quest Builders 2. Turns out Malroth wasn't always the good boy that watches your back. He was once a bad boy. In the first DQ, there's a lot of information to be gathered from NPCs, but it's never so daunting that you can easily miss something important. As for DQ2, the chances of becoming lost and confused are much higher. I don't think I even knew about finding the crests as a kid. There are so many more people to talk to that important info can easily get lost in the shuffle, and sometimes the game just straight up doesn't give you enough info to reasonably call a clue. I was told that the Sun Crest can be found in the Monolith of Fire. I stored that info away, assuming that if I came upon a dungeon or a tower that was fire themed, that's where it would be. Lo and behold, I scoured the crap out of those lava caverns and found no Sun Crest. You want to know where it is? Scattered around the map are teleportation shrines. The Sun Crest is hidden in the corner of the outside of this shrine because, what, I was supposed to look at these 3 torches and think, oh, this must be the fire monolith. You see this room? Would you guess that there is a vital to finish the game item hidden in here? It's the water crest. I guess I should have known that because of all the water, huh? The life crest is only marginally less dumb since it's actually in a chest, the way it should be, but that little concession gets forgotten when you realize that it's in the basement of a dungeon that teaches you that falling down is a bad thing, and that getting out is going to drain your resources. Come on, Enix, these crests are even more stupidly hidden than the ones from Digimon. Wait. Crests? Goggles? Grinding? My god, it's Digimon World 3 all over again. That gold key that I failed to find as a kid? You have to talk to a dog, follow it, and search the ground in front of it. If my finely honed gamer mind hadn't gone, they programmed the dog to do that for a reason, I might have wound up missing it again. At least until I got fed up and checked out a walkthrough, which I did. Good lord, I don't think anybody is supposed to finish this game without some kind of written guide. This feels like one of those old NES games that was made to sell issues of Nintendo Power. Sure, you might have the helmet of Roto, the sword of lightning, and the water robe, but you don't truly have the power until you order Nintendo Power. Oh god, the water robe. That was a pain to get. First you have to find the dew yarn by meticulously scouring the 3rd floor of the Northern Dragonhorn Tower, which, yeah, it's about as tedious as it looks. I feel like a stupid asshole right now. Then you gotta find the Holy Loom, which is hidden in the same town as the Golden Key, and bring both items to Don Calico in Sluice. But he needs some time to finish his work and wants you to come back later. This means saving the game and reloading before talking to him again. Well, guess what? There is no person that can save your game in Sluice. You have to sail to a place where you can save, reload the game, sail back, and just... I can hear this game laughing at me with all the hoops it's making me jump through.
Yeah!
Don't even get me started on the Prince of Connacht getting cursed and removed from the party if you sleep at the wrong inn. That is uncalled for, game. No more hoops. So I think I've made it clear that Dragon Quest II is not a favorite of mine, but there are still some great moments in this game. The overworld music is fantastic, even better than the theme from the first game. But after you gather your party together, you get a new theme that's filled with confidence and positivity. Equipping the Wind Cape and jumping from the top of the Dragonhorn Tower to glide over the river was such an amazing moment when I was a kid. It's one of the few things I remembered really well, and it seems to have left an impression on many others, judging by how much fan art there is of this moment. Early on, when I was still just exploring, I stepped through a teleporter and wound up in a place that seemed strangely familiar. After exploring a bit, I found myself at the door of Dragon Lord's castle from the first game, and I was positively giddy with excitement. I would love an explanation as to how Roto's sword wound up back in that same chest. There was a really great moment when I took a detour back to the destroyed Moonbrook Castle with the princess in tow. I was curious if there would be new dialogue if I had the princess with me, and there was. A lot of it. Seeing his daughter lets the spirit of the king move on to the afterlife. The devs put this in the game knowing full well that a lot of players would probably miss it. I respect that kind of attention to detail. Too bad the king comes right back if you leave the castle and return. Kinda ruined the illusion of actually having agency in this world. I gotta admit, without liberal use of a walkthrough, fast forwarding, and a save state here and there, I never would have had the patience to slog through this game. It tries to do the same thing DQ1 did with its open world, but on a much larger scale. And I think DQ1 ultimately did it better because it didn't get carried away. It kept its world concise and doesn't feel bloated like DQ2. And despite all of this, there are still many people that enjoy diving into this world. Dragon Quest II may be an adventure filled with frustrations and headaches, but for a game of its time, it certainly was a grand adventure indeed. That's it for the one with the goggles. Man, that was rough. Thankfully, I have spent some time with Dragon Quest III, and I can tell you now, it's good. Real good. How good? Well, become a spooky, scary subscriber, and I'll tell you next time here on the Bone Zone. This is A Skeleton signing out.